Hello, everybody. My name is Gabriel, and welcome to The Mason That Couldn't. This is a sad and somber story about our protagonist, Mason, who was not the greatest at a lot of things. So, let's get into the story. The Mason That Couldn't. In the heart of a small, somber town lived a man named Mason. Mason was the kind of person who never seemed to catch a break. He was hefty, his figure a testament to years of neglect and poor choices, his clothes barely fit, hanging off of him in an unflattering manner, and his personal hygiene was a topic of whispered conversations behind his back. An unfortunate odor clung to him, a mix of sweat and unwashed clothes that lingered long after he had left the room. Mason's life was a series of blunders. He couldn't hold down a job, not because he lacked the intelligence, but because his awkwardness and clumsiness often got in the way. His apartment was a mess, a chaotic collection of dirty dishes, unwashed clothes, and ever-present scent that made visitors gag. The bathroom was the worst, a place he never seemed to manage cleaning up properly. The sight of it alone was enough to make anyone recoil in disgust. However, the greatest struggle Mason faced was his inability to talk to women. Every interaction was a disaster, a cringe-worthy display of his lack of social skills and self-awareness. He would stumble over his words, his face turning beet red as he tried to form coherent sentences, and his compliments came out wrong, sounding more like insults and creepy observations. Women avoided him, and the more they did, the more desperate and awkward our protagonist Mason has become. Now that I think of it, this is less of a story where he's a protagonist and more of an overview. But it's okay. Mason's loneliness gnawed at him. He would spend several hours in front of his computer watching romantic comedies and imagining a life where he would be charming and confident. But reality always pulled him back, harsh and unforgiving. He would try to clean himself up, to lose weight, to become someone others could tolerate. But his efforts were always short lived. His self esteem was shattered, and every failure only confirmed what he believed, that he was worthless and absolutely unlovable. One evening, after yet another failed attempt to talk to a woman at the local coffee shop, Mason wandered the streets aimlessly. He felt the weight of his life pressing down on him, and the weight of his belly, too, a heavy burden he could no longer bear. He found himself at the edge of the town's lake, its dark waters reflecting the night sky. Tears streamed down his face as he stared at his distorted reflection. For the first time, he confronted the truth that he had been avoiding. Mason was his own was his own worst enemy. And in that moment of clarity, Mason made a decision, right? He was going to stop trying to be something that he wasn't, and he would accept himself, flaws and all, and live life on his terms, nobody else's. He didn't know how he would do it, but he was at least determined to try. He would find a way to clean up his life, to lose weight, to learn how to interact with people without fear and self-loathing. He would do it, he told himself. But the road ahead was long and difficult. Yet, Mason, he took the first step that night. Sorry, I forgot how to read. I think I figured it out now. Yeah, yeah. He walked home with a sense of purpose he had never felt before. And it wouldn't be easy, and he knew he would stumble and fall along the way, but for the first time, Mason had hope. Right? Now, months passed, and Mason put in a genuine effort. He cleaned his apartment, he began a workout routine, and even sought after help from a therapist. Small improvements were made, but his progress was slow, as expected. But yeah, still. He felt better about himself and decided to try his luck with women again, hoping his newfound determination would make a difference. But reality often remains unkind. It does remain unkind. Mason approached women with newfound confidence, only to be met with the same rejections. He tried to engage in conversations, only to be met with polite excuses and outright dismissal. Each rejection chipped away at his fragile Each rejection chipped away at his fragile self-esteem, and the old feelings of worthlessness began to creep back in. And, well, one particularly harsh rejection, one, one, one particularly harsh, one particularly harsh, one, one particularly, one, one part, one particularly, one particularly, one, one partic, one particularly, one, one particularly, one particularly harsh rejection at one, one, one particular, one, 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 one part, one, one part. One particularly harsh rejection at a local bar left Mason shattered. A woman he had mustered all his courage to talk to laughed in that boy's face, all right, making a cruel comment about his appearance and his odor. And, well, humiliated and heartbroken, Mason retreated to his dingy apartment with the weight of his failures crushing him. And despite all his efforts, Mason found himself in the same lonely, despairing place that he had always been in. That he had always been in. And his attempts at self-improvement had not changed how the world saw him. And the hope that had once fueled him was extinguished. He sank into a deep depression. And his apartment, once again, became a reflection of his inner turmoil. In the end, Mason could not escape his fate. He was the Mason that couldn't, a man forever trapped in a cycle of failure and rejection, his dreams of love and acceptance forever out of reach. The Mason that couldn't. Quick disclaimer, this story had absolutely nothing to do with any sort of real life people or locations or things, this is just purely fantasy. I would never base such a mean story off of someone that I know. It's not right. I love you, Mason. From the story. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess because you made it to the end, I can sing you a song now. Little baby Mason sitting on his couch right now, eating lots of Takis. Little baby Mason sticks his hand down his crack, then he reaches in the bag and grabs some more Takis. Oh, little baby Mason don't even know how to eat his food real good. No, he don't. But it's A-OK, he's gonna do it. all again someday, little Mason. Yeah, you know, he's a very cool guy with some very cute clothes, Mason. Already knows today. Now, little bit of Mason, he is so cool. He sometimes goes to school, yeah, and then he also tends to drool. Little Mason, boy, little Mason in the way, Mason inside the drawer. You can rely on Mason's money. You can rely on the Mason's money. It's a bitch, Mason, but you gotta do it now, else you're gonna turn into a cow. My voice doesn't go that low sometimes, so I gotta pump it up to an octave high. Little Mason, little tiny little boy, he's a boy, he needs to go away. He needs to go hide in his own little shack. He needs to go hide in his own butt crack, little Mason. Yeah, I wish I had some musical instruments with me. 'Cause now I'm thinking that when I look back, this'll sound really bad. Just like this change in thing. That was Mason the musical. I hope you liked it. Based off of Mason in the story. Yeah, I said yeah, but this didn't pick it up. Anyways, I think I've entertained you for long enough. But what would one more song hurt, right? Once upon a blue moon, Mason comes to seek. He comes through the windows and he gobbles right on your feet, yeah. Little Mason sneaks around. Little Mason acts a clown. But at the end of the day, little Mason will always be okay. Yeah, a little Mason searching round for you on a blue, blue moon. He's waiting to see where you're gonna go so we can follow you and be a best baby friend that's ever existed. Little Mason falling down the rooftop 'cause he slipped on his little shoe tops and he don't know what to do. Yeah, but the Mason falling down from the sky. It'll be okay, though he'll probably die. It'll be just fine, Mason, tonight. Oh, Mason song, Mason dong. Mason song, but a Mason, but a Mason, but a Mason, but a Mason. Goodbye.